Promise you this isn't sponsored. Honestly, sometimes you just come across one of those pieces of software that you just go, how have I ever lived without it? Because Tailscale allows me to do so many things that I normally wouldn't be able to do. I'd have to pay a lot of money for. Let me give you a quick overview as to the possibilities of it. Then we're going to go through how to set it up. And at the end, I'm going to show a few more use cases and what you can potentially use it for. So let's jump over to the computer and let's get started. The first thing it allows me to do is it allows me to monitor all my devices here on the network, but even when they are not on my home network. So if we take a look here, I've got a couple of devices that I've tagged with my dad's stuff, which is my dad's Mac Studio here, which I'm monitoring to just check in for uptime, things like that, if there's anything that's gone wrong with it. And the other thing I'm monitoring is my dad's server. And if we take a look here, here's the IP address. I can literally just click on it. There we are on the home screen, and it allows me now to log in and kind of just manage it, because he's not that technical, but he has a lot of photos that he needs backing up. So I've just configured a TrueNAS server for him. There's honestly so much data here, but as I said, for the time being, this is enough, and I get notification if anything happens and this server goes down. Now, if we take a look at my actual use case here for Tailscale, you can see so many things here. And one of the things I want to show you how to get set up is subnet routing and exit nodes, because I think exit nodes are absolutely brilliant. They're a great piece of software and a great addition that is free when it comes to Tailscale. And the thing I absolutely love about Tailscale is that there's no fancy configuration that you need. There's no port forwarding on your router that you need to do. It's just honestly as simple as downloading an app, configuring a couple of settings, and you're off to the races, and it's all working. And the best thing is it's free for up to 100 devices and 3 users. At the moment, I've got my partner's devices on there. I've got obviously my own devices on there and my dad's. These are the kind of the 3 most critical sets of devices that I need to have on my home network. The difference between Tailscale and something such as NordVPN or ExpressVPN or private internet access is that they have slightly different use cases. With Tailscale, you do not have a central server. Every device on its own acts as a client as well as a server. Whereas if you look at something like NordVPN, the whole point is to kind of make you appear as if you are in a different country. This is usually to get by something like geo restrictions when you're looking to watch Netflix, or access, for example, if you're British and you want to watch the BBC, but you're not in the UK, you will not be able to watch BBC, and therefore you could use something like NordVPN to appear as if you are browsing from the UK and therefore being able to watch BBC. So I've just remoted in on my Windows 11 PC, and it is not on the network, it is not on Tailscale. And what I want to show you is I want to start Tailscale from complete scratch and set up a brand new account for you. And I want to take you along on that and show you how easy it is to get that done. So the first thing I usually do when I'm on Tailscale is I click on login here, and it gives you all the different auth providers here. So you can sign in with Apple, Microsoft, Google, and so on. So I'm going to sign in with my Apple account here. So you'll then be presented with this screen here, and this is kind of the Tailscale homepage. And I usually recommend making a couple of changes. So usually under setting, under user management, it gives you your identity provider here. But the main thing here under user approval, this is a bit of a security feature. I tend to recommend to turn this on, which means manually approve new users. So whenever somebody joins the network, so if you send a link to someone and they join the network, you still have to manually approve this user. Now, I also recommend doing this for device management here. So under device approval, I tick the box which says manually approve new devices. So whenever a device joins your network, you have to still manually approve it, and it just adds that extra layer of security. Now, in order to invite somebody, such as my dad, for example, if he was to join this network, I click on users, invite external users, and then you can either copy the invite link and ask them to kind of sign up. So in this case, they'd be a member if you wanted to, or you can invite them via email, but just email him essentially a link, and then they'll have to just go through the setup process, and then you'd have to manually approve them. And then down here is where you would then see all the users here, and you can change their roles, go into it and see kind of their devices, the group memberships, all this sort of stuff. This is where you manage everything. Now, DNS is something that's super cool. And I've done a whole dedicated video on this, on how you can use ad blocking using Pi-hole abroad. So even when you are not on your home network. So go ahead and watch that video. I'll have it linked down below, because honestly, it is super cool, and it also involves Tailscale. But let's now actually add this device, this Windows device here, to this Tailscale network. Now, in order to add a device, under machines here, you can click on Windows here. It takes you to a brand new page. It will look something like this. And here's where I just download the MSI for Windows. And then I just click download for Windows, and I just click install here. I'm just working my way through. Now, where it says sign in under your network, if you are already authenticated on that same device, it will just ask you to connect. And then this is what I was talking about, where it's saying you are logged in, but you are not connected. That's because I need to approve this device manually. And if we then go back to the Tailscale installer here, it's added the device now, and we can now make a couple of local changes here. Now, it might not be visible straight away, but usually at the bottom, you will see these like 9 dots. You can click on those, right click, and then click on preferences. And here is where you can make some of the changes. So you can automatically install updates. Highly recommend that. Obviously, use Tailscale Subnet, use Tailscale DNS settings, and allow incoming connections, usually ticked on by default. And run unattended means that essentially it runs before the computer actually starts. And this can be handy if you need to remote into a computer, but you don't have somebody there to log in. That means that Tailscale is running, and essentially if you remote in, it gives you access to the login window so you can then log in, because otherwise it only starts when the user signs in. And this is where it tells you here, it says when you log out of Windows and keeps running even if the machine reboots. And again, this is handy very much for being able to remote access a computer that hasn't got somebody in front of it all the time. So I just tend to tick this yes. Now, one of the super cool features, which we're going to get onto shortly, is if you click on exit nodes here, you can then scroll all the way to the bottom where it says a run exit node. And this says, are you sure you want to run this as an exit node? And I don't know why that's disappeared. There we go. Running an exit node means that other devices on your telnet can send their traffic through this computer's IP address. And I'll get onto that in a second. But I want to run this device as an exit node. So we can now see the devices here. And we've now got this new tag which says exit node. But there's one more thing that we need to do. So if I now click on edit root settings and then click on use as exit node and I click save, this now means that I can route all my traffic on my Tailscale network through this device here. This is handy if you are in another country, for example, or you're not at home, but you still want your internet connection to go through your home network and pretend as if you are at home. And this is exactly why you can send traffic through an exit node such as this one here. So if I now show you how that works in a real time. So if we take a look at my uptime Kuma here, and we can see that my dad's server address is this one here. And I'm using a Mac specifically, but you can do the same on Windows. So if I go connect to server, and then I've already added it here. If I click connect, and there we go, we are now connected to my dad's server, but actually on my computer here. So I can now see the server here and I can see all of the stuff that he has. So if there are any files that I want to share with him, so for example, if I created a text file here and I wanted to share it with him, I could do that quite easily by just dragging it into here and say, Dad, by the way, the file is on your server. And he obviously has it mounted on his Mac, and then he'll be able to see all of the files that I've added, for example. Now, the other thing is you can do a remote desktop, and I like to use RustDesk here, and that's my dad's Mac here. And if I click connect, and I hope he's not doing anything, there we go. I am now remoted into his machine. It's as quick and easy as that. I can now go ahead and do all the folders, files, do all the editing that I need to do on his computer. There we go. And I can now go ahead and do troubleshooting and things like that on his device, because I'm sure we've all been there where you're trying to FaceTime your parents doing tech support and the camera's pointing over there, and you know what you should be looking at is over here, and they don't really understand it. Whereas that way I can just remote in, I can then see all of the stuff that he's running. I can just go ahead and fix it without having to actually be physically on site. And one of the super cool things, and this is what I want to show you here, is something called subnet routing. And if we go back to our Tailscale instance here, we can see that on my dad's TrueNAS scale server, I have enabled subnet routing. And the way subnet routing works is that I can now type in my dad's router's IP address, such as 10.0.0.1, because my network's on 10.0.40.1, and I can now remote in and make changes to his router. So he's got a Fritzbox 7530 here. And if there's anything that I need changing, such as his DHCP, or if there are any other changes that I need to make, such as his wireless LAN or anything like that, I can remote in. Because with enabling subnet routing on one of the devices that is in the other network, it means you have access to all the other devices on that network. And this is what's so super amazing about Tailscale, because I might not be able to install Tailscale on the Fritzbox on his router here, but because of the magic of subnet routing, I can then go in to his network and see all the other devices. So my mum's laptop, for example, my dad's iPad, things like that, that might not have Tailscale installed on them. So I mentioned exit nodes earlier, and what I want to show you is how exit nodes actually work. So I've gone ahead and remoted into my dad's PC here, or into my dad's Mac Studio here, and he also has Tailscale running here because that's how I remoted in. But if we take a look on the menu here, Under exit nodes, we can now see that I can either send this traffic through my mini PC, which is just called Blackview, which I've added to my Tailscale network, or I can route his traffic through his server if I wanted to. But there's no point because he's already on the same network, so it makes less sense. But if he was, for example, on his iPhone, I could route all of his traffic through his server so it appears as if he's still at home. But if I was to now select Blackview, all of the traffic now that he's doing, everything that he's browsing appears on my router. So essentially all the traffic is going over the internet, through a tunnel, into my home network here, and then it goes out of my router, out to the internet, and it comes back. So if he's Googling something, he is more likely to get English search results rather than the search results from his home country. And this is one of those super, super cool things. And I think it's absolutely brilliant because, as I said, you could be somewhere abroad. You could even be in a coffee shop where you're not sure about the Wi-Fi. That way your traffic gets encrypted and it goes out of your home network and all your data is safe and secure. And this is why I think Tailscale is just an absolute must for everyone because of all the features that I've mentioned here. To be honest with you, what we've just talked about, it just scratches the surface of what Tailscale is capable of. And honestly, I promise you, I'm not sponsored by Tailscale, but if Tailscale are watching the video, I would by all means love to do a video on it. You can set up something such as Minecraft servers on your home network to play with your friends. I've done a whole video on this, on how you can set this up completely for free without having to pay any data or anyone for any Minecraft hosting. You can also set up a backup server that is offsite. So if I wanted to use my dad's server as my time machine backup for my Mac Mini, I could by all means do that and just send all of the traffic over to him as a kind of an extra layer of security. For example, I could have a centralized photo library if I wanted to have that. So my dad can add photos, I can add photos. So you're not going to be tied to something like Google Photos, for example. Honestly, as I said, this is just scratching the surface. So if you want me to do any more videos about that stuff that I've just talked about, by all means, please let me know. But for now, I hope this has been useful. Let me know the ideas that you can come up with when it comes to Tailscale and let me know how you got on. But for now, all I want to say is thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this one and I look forward to seeing you in my next one.